Buying the median American home right now costs you about $63,000 more than renting the same house over 5 years. That's not a crash scenario. That's today's mortgage rate, today's insurance bill, and the rate house prices are actually rising at this month. There is a point where that flips. Let me show you where it is. Here's why this one is so expensive to get wrong. Nobody gets it wrong loudly. There's no alert, nothing bounces. You buy a house, you live in it, and you feel like an adult. Then you sell 4 years later. A job, a baby, a divorce. The check at closing looks big. So it feels like it worked. What you never see is the other version of you, the one who rented and invested the gap. In the numbers I'm about to run, that version is $35,000 ahead at year 3. That's a car, paid in cash. And you would never know it was missing. So let me show you exactly where this comes from, because the assumptions do all the work here. $440,000 house. That's the national median. From the Realtor's June report, 20% down, 30-year loan at 6.69%, which is the Freddie Mac average from the first week of August. Rent on a comparable house, $2,320 a month. That's Zillow's single-family number, and it's rising about 3% a year. Property tax at 1%. Insurance at just under $3,000 a year, which is the current national average. Maintenance at 1% of the value. I'll flag that one now. Surveys put actual spending closer to $9,000 a year, so I'm being generous to the buyer deliberately. Investments at 7%. The long-run stock market average is over 10. I'm using 7 to stay conservative there too. So wherever I've had a choice, I've tilted the numbers toward buying. Keep that in mind when you see where this lands. Every one of those is sourced in the description, and I'm ignoring the mortgage interest deduction, which makes buying look slightly better than I'm about to. 3 things. 1, the 4 costs that make a mortgage payment a lie. 2, the year this decision actually flips, run properly. And 3, the one number that moves that year by more than a decade. It's not the interest rate, and it's the number nobody checks. Let's start with the sentence that drives this entire decision. Rent is throwing money away. You've heard it from a parent, maybe from an agent. And it isn't a stupid thing to say. Here's why it exists. When you rent, you hand over $2,300 and own nothing at the end of the month. When you buy, part of your payment goes into the house. That part comes back when you sell. On the surface, that's airtight. Here's where it stops being true. Your mortgage payment is not one thing. It's 2 things wearing the same coat. Part of it is principal. That part is yours. It moves from your bank account into your house, and you get it back later. The rest is interest. Interest is gone. It is exactly as gone as rent. The bank keeps it. You never see it again. On this loan, the payment is $2,269 a month. In month 1, $1,962. Of that is interest. $307 is actually yours. Run that out 5 years. You will have paid $114,000 in interest and $21,000 in principal. Concerning in the out. 5 years of payments, 5 to 1 against you. And this isn't the bank being sneaky. It's arithmetic. Interest is charged on what you still owe. At the start, you owe almost all of it. So almost all of the payment is interest, which means the loan is front-loaded by design. The bank collects its money first. You build yours last. And the split doesn't even out until year 20. Most people don't stay that long. So for the entire time most people own a home, the majority of that payment builds nothing. And that's before the 3 other costs nobody puts in the comparison. Property tax, insurance, maintenance. None of those come back. Not $1. They are rent. You're just paying a county, an insurer, and a plumber instead of a landlord. So the real question was never rent versus mortgage. It was this. How much money do you never get back on each side? Let's count it. Desmond, 34, Columbus. Bought at almost exactly these numbers. Sold 3 years later when his company moved him. He walked out of closing with a check for $21,000. He told everyone it worked. It didn't. He was about $35,000 behind where renting would have put him, and the check is the reason he never checked. Real numbers. Year 1. Everything you never get back. Interest first. 6.69% on $352,000. About $23,500 in a year. Property tax, $4,400. Insurance, $2,966. That's the national average, and it climbed 12% last year and another 4% this year. Maintenance, $4,400. Add them. $35,300. $35,000 in 1 year. That does not come back. Not equity, not investment. Gone. Now the other side. Rent at $23.20 a month is $27,800 a year. Also gone. So owning burns $7,500 more than renting before anything else happens. And there's one more thing nobody counts. Your down payment. $88,000. Plus about $11,000 in closing costs. That $99,000 isn't lost, but it isn't working either. It's sitting in drywall. Put that same $99,000 in the market at 7%. It earns nearly $7,000 in year one. So add it up. $7,500 in extra burn. $7,000 in returns given up. $14,400 in year one in the renter's favor. $1,200 a month, and I haven't charged you for the exit yet. When you sell, agent commission averages 5.7%. Add seller closing costs, and you're at 8. The national average, all in, is 9.66%. On a house worth $600,000, that's around $48,000. You pay it whether the market went up or down. Buying has a toll booth at both ends. 3 years in, with the renter investing every dollar of the gap, the renter is $35,000 ahead. That number is real. Every figure was checked this week. It is also completely wrong, because I just held one thing perfectly still, and it has never held still, not once, in your lifetime. The moment I let it move, everything you just watched starts to reverse. Watch. Rent goes up. That's it. That's the variable. I ran those 3 years with rent frozen at $23.20. Nobody's rent has ever been frozen for 30 years. So put it back. 3% a year, which is exactly what single-family rents did over the last 12 months. Now look at the owner. Their interest bill doesn't rise. It falls every month as the loan shrinks. Tax, insurance, and maintenance climb. But the biggest line, interest, is going the other way. The renter's cost climbs. The owner's biggest cost drains away. And there's a second engine working for the owner. It's the one people feel but can't name. Leverage. You put down $88,000, but you get the appreciation on $440,000. So a 3.5% rise is $15,400 in year one, measured against your $88,000. That's a 17% return. That's why housing feels like a rocket. You're earning a whole market's return on borrowed money. But leverage is a multiplier, not a gift. A 5% drop in the house isn't a 5% loss. Against your down payment, it's 25% gone. So the two sides cross. Here's where. Year 3, the renter is $35,000 ahead. Year 5, $25,000. Year 7, $12,000. The lead is collapsing. Year 8, under $5,000. Year 9, the owner takes the lead. 9 years. Under 9 years in that house, renting wins. Past 9, buying wins, and the gap widens every year you stay. And there's a cliff at the end that nobody talks about. At year 30, the mortgage stops. Just stops. The owner's housing cost drops to tax, insurance, and maintenance, about $2,300 a month in that year's money. The renter, on the same house, is paying about $5,500 a month by then. That's the real long-run case for buying, not appreciation. The day the payment ends. So 9 years. That's the rule. Simple. Except I just used a number I have no right to use. It's the most important input in this entire video, and it is the one people never question. Change it to what it actually is today, and 9 years becomes 23. Here's the part that should worry you. That 9-year line assumes house prices rise 3.5% a year. That's the long-run average, going back decades. It is a historical figure. It is not a forecast. So what are prices actually doing? 1.8%. That's the year-over-year change in the median U.S. home price from the June Realtors data. Not 3.5. 1.8. Run the whole thing again at 1.8. Year 5. The renter is $63,000 ahead. Year 10. $74,000 ahead. Year 15. Still $70,000 ahead. Year 20. Still ahead. The crossover doesn't move to year 10. It moves to about year 23. 1.5 percentage points moved your break-even by 14 years. So the objection doesn't hold. 9 years isn't a rule. It's an output of an assumption about a market you don't control. And it cuts both ways. At 5% appreciation, buying wins in under 5 years. Which brings up the thing that makes every national number here soft. There is no national housing market. There are hundreds of local ones, and they don't move together. Two families can run this exact calculation in the same month, at the same rate, and get answers 18 years apart. Not because one of them did the math wrong, because one of them lives somewhere rents are climbing 6%, and the other lives somewhere they're falling. So treat 9 years as a starting point, not an answer. I'll show you how to find yours in a minute. One more objection, because it's the good one. Somebody's thinking, I'll refinance when rates drop. Maybe. But refinancing costs 2 to 3% of the loan, and it restarts the interest clock. Your payment falls. Your total interest often doesn't. And it does nothing to tax, insurance, or maintenance, the three that keep climbing. Refinancing changes the monthly number. It barely moves the crossover. There is no universal answer here. There's a formula with 4 inputs, and 2 of them are guesses. So stop guessing on the 2 you actually know. Remember that $14,000 gap from year 1? It only exists if the renter actually invests it. Every number here rests on one assumption. $1,200 a month goes into the market, automatically, every month, for years. If it goes on a holiday instead, the renter loses at every single year, including year 1. So here's what this looks like on a Tuesday. 3 numbers. 15 minutes. Number 1. Write down how long you'll realistically be in this house. Not how long you hope. How long? Look at your last 3 moves and take the honest average. If that number is under 9, you have your answer already. Number 2. Work out your city's price-to-rent ratio. Take what a house sells for. Divide it by a year of rent on the same house. Nationally, right now, that's about 15.8. Under 15, buying is cheap where you live. Over 25, it's expensive, and your crossover sits years further out. Number 3. Set up the transfer today. This is the one that decides everything. Whichever way you go, work out the monthly gap and automate it. If you rent, that $1,200 a month leaves for a brokerage account on payday. Automatic. Before you see it. And here's why step 3 matters most. Buying a house forces you to save. That's its real advantage. It isn't a return, it's a commitment device. The mortgage doesn't care about your willpower. Renting hands you the same money and asks you to be disciplined with it. If you know you won't be, buy the house. That's not a financial argument, it's an honest one. And it's worth more than the spreadsheet. Lucia, 41, Sacramento, rented 9 years and finished ahead of every buyer she knew. Not because she called the market, because she set up one automatic transfer in her 20s and never touched it. So here's what all of this actually means. You were never choosing between renting and buying. You were choosing how long you're going to stand still, and then paying for it. Buying isn't an investment that happens to house you. It's housing, with a forced savings plan bolted to the side, and a bill at both doors. Getting in and getting out. Stay long enough and the savings plan wins. Leave early and that bill is the only thing you bought. 3 steps, in order. 1. In the next 10 minutes, write down your honest length of stay. 1 number, on paper. 2. This week, work out the price-to-rent ratio where you live and put it next to that number. 3. Before your next payday, set up the automatic transfer for the difference whichever side of this you land on. Skip step 3, and the first 2 were entertainment. 14 minutes ago, you thought this was a question about interest rates. It was a question about a calendar. So tell me yours. How many years do you honestly think you'll be in your next place? Put the number in the comments. Just the number. The thing I didn't cover is what happens when you buy with less than 20% down. That moves the crossover further than anything I've shown you today. That's the next one.